Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. It's fast, frenetic, poorly balanced, and kinda dull. Little to no Dark Souls DNA in it. Often maddeningly frustrating title, and the overall plot makes kinda no sense. Small map full of Xbox One era textures.
What's up, everybody? Today we'll be taking a look at another gaming journalist review of Armored Core 6. Now, this review is coming to us graciously from the Xbox Era YouTube channel. Now, the first thing that I found that was extremely suspicious with this review is that the comments are turned off. And as a YouTuber, that is completely counterproductive. You want as many comments on your videos as possible because it helps with the algorithm. What that means is that they were willing to sacrifice the potential of their video just to protect their feelings from mean words in the comment section. And that is absolutely ridiculous. I think that criticism is necessary for people to have a productive conversation and an exchange back and forth. If you prevent people from commenting on your videos, I don't see what's the point of making it in the first place. But without further ado, let's dive deep in this pile of shit that is this review.
From Software is heading back to its mecha roots with Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. It's fast, frenetic, poorly balanced, and kinda dull. For a title like this to come out from one of my favorite companies is kinda shocking. I'm fine that this game has little to no Dark Souls DNA in it. The gameplay can be a lot of fun occasionally. So let's just break down the highs and the many lows of this occasionally fun and often maddeningly frustrating title. Never-ending fight over the substance Coral finds your mercenary pilot caught up in the middle of a lot of baffling and very dull political squabbling. The story itself starts out as a mishmash of I have no idea who I am, what I'm doing, or where I'm going, and evolves into I don't really care about any of this, I think I might just start skipping it all.
Okay, so the reviewer is saying that the story is so boring that he decided to skip the cutscenes, which are the mission briefings. Then how are you supposed to get the entire story if you're skipping it? It just seems very disingenuous if your job is to review a game, but you decide to skip the story because you don't like the way it's delivered.
The writing is poor, the voice acting is a mix of passable and terrible, and the overall plot makes kinda no sense. There is no real world building, as everything is either a text menu or you're in-game and shooting things while people are talking. The Souls titles do have incredibly deep lore that you can discover both in-world and through the descriptions of drops, but at no point did I feel attached to any part of this story, and the weird tough guy American Army accents in certain missions were very painful.
So he's complaining that there's no deep lore meaning in the descriptions of the items, but dude, they're guns, they're metal pieces, they're robot parts. What would you possibly want there to be? It seems like these gaming journalists have all these Souls-like expectations in an Armored Core game. It's not the same genre. Try to get it through your thick skull. I know it's difficult, but just give it a try.
The mission design is mostly linear. You'll choose a sortie from the menu and listen to a mediocre cutscene dialogue. Then once you're happy with your loadout, and more on that later, you'll quickly load into a small map full of Xbox One era textures.
Here we go again with the gaming journalist complaining about Armored Core 6's graphics. First of all, to compare it to the Xbox One era textures is just ridiculous. Even though this game does run on Xbox One, it's not like it's a next-gen game only. And also, in an Armored Core game, graphics aren't the most important. Who cares about the amount of pixels on a tree when you're flying by at lightning speed? And don't forget that art direction will always be more important than graphical fidelity.
You're a big old mecha, so buildings, helicopters, and normal tanks all look tiny to you. The scale is the best part of the game, even if most of the maps don't feature that large of a playable area. Early missions can be a few minutes long, with later ones being upwards of 20 or more. The game is generous early on with its checkpointing system, replenishing all of your ammo and heals whenever you die. My main issue, though, are the difficulty spikes. I'm only allowed to show in this video and mostly talk about the first 2 chapters, and each of the end bosses in those chapters is terrible. They are cool in their mechanical design, but the jump in difficulty is kinda miserable. because if you do not know their exact weakness, it can take a very long time to defeat them. I was able to breeze through most of the title, especially early on, but every now and then a new fight popped up that whooped my ass repeatedly, but without that proper ramp up.
So this gaming journalist said that From Software was one of his favorite company before, but here he is complaining about difficult boss fights. Make it make sense. Yes, the bosses are difficult, but that's the entire point. The missions are a way to earn money and to hone your skills against the weaker opponents so that when you get to a boss fight, you have enough money to buy parts and you know what you're doing. And of course, it might take you a couple tries, you might have to switch your build around, but that's part of the From Software philosophy, is overcoming a great challenge, and that way you actually feel good about what you accomplish. Nobody held your hand, you did it on your own. There is no gaming journalist mode, so everybody's on the same footing. But it seems like this gaming journalist has a hard time understanding that.
But even after quickly finding the proper setup for the Chapter 2 boss, it still took me many dozens, if not over 100 attempts to defeat him. I had to go back and repeatedly farm the older missions to earn in-game money to buy the absolute best setup possible. Even with all that, it took me nearly 15 minutes of playing damn near perfectly to finally defeat him. As the game went on, my issues with the cheapness greatly increased. Where checkpoints had been extremely generous, I would find myself 10 minutes into a very tough level, die, and then be told my only option was to completely restart it. It didn't happen on every level, but when it did, it greatly dampened my enjoyment.
So this gaming journalist is complaining that the checkpoint system isn't generous enough, but yet I do believe that this is the first time that there even is a checkpoint system in an Armored Core game.
But the game has a photo mode, and often when I went to take a cool picture, I found myself shocked at just how bad the ground and wall textures could look around my kick-ass looking mecha. And as I came to talk about the music, I kind of realized that I barely remember it. It fits the mood of the fights pretty well, but it's not memorable at all, which is kind of a first for me with From. And I did try to play some of the 6v6 PvP mode, as the company had whitelisted us for the review process, but I've been unable to find a game, unfortunately.
Breaking news, this gaming journalist has actually found that there is a hidden 6v6 mode in Armored Core 6, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to find a game. He wasn't able to find a game because that mode doesn't exist.
Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is an odd return to what has mostly been a kinda mediocre series. It fixes multiple issues, mainly control-wise, from the past titles, without adding much else. It's not great to look at, and while it can be fun to play, its poor balance as you progress kills any joy to be found after not too long.
Alright, so he gave Armored Core a 6.5. Let's take a look at his Diablo review score real quick, just so we can analyze if this is an objective, reasonable person who is able to judge a game for what it is.
A game that should delight fans of the series for hundreds, if not thousands of hours.
Aw, come on, dude. Get out of here with 9.5 for Diablo 4. And this is the problem with these gaming journalists. They're not able to review this objectively. It doesn't mean that you don't like it, that it's bad. Let me give you an example. I think that objectively, there's a couple games that I can say are 9.5 out of 10. I'm thinking Bloodborne, Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, and Ocarina of Time. Because these games set to accomplish one thing, is to deliver a perfect, near perfect experience in their respective category. When it comes to Bloodborne, you want interesting story with insane combat difficulty and deep lore, then that does it. It just hits the mark perfectly. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a masterful platformer. And of course, Ocarina of Time is a game that will be very hard to surpass in any way, shape, or form for just how perfect it was for the Zelda franchise. But here's the thing, Armored Core is here to deliver a mech experience. You should be able to judge it on what it's trying to give you by comparing it to other mech games. It's not a Souls-like. So just because you don't like the mech genre doesn't mean that you should give it a shit score. Let me give you another example. If some company approached me and wanted me to review FIFA or Madden or Street Fighter, I wouldn't be able to give an objective review because I don't like that genre. I don't like fighting games, I don't like sports games, so I'm not the right person for the job. Obviously, this guy over here has no clue what the mech genre is about and just did a review for the sake of doing a review. On a side note, I don't know how it's possible for a tiny channel like Xbox Era to have access to review codes. I mean, they only get a couple thousands of views per video, and then you have great channels like Ziostorm, Ratatosker, and they weren't even provided a review code when they would be much more qualified to give an objective review on this game. But I digress, that's besides the point. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really enjoy tearing these gaming journalists apart. It's a passion of mine. And if you enjoyed the video and it brought you laughter, please subscribe to the channel as it really helps. And I'll see you guys on the next video.